An answer long sought after, but one that's just so final. Not at all instant. Hey guys, MasakoX here. We round up What If Week for September with a question that many of you lot have asked me, but one that I couldn't quite see the appeal over. What if Goku never learnt instant transmission? Short answer, nothing good, but the long answer involves something that keeps the building blocks of DBZ in place, but everything pretty much past the Namek saga changes irrevocably. If you have a what if scenario you'd like to pose to me, just tweet me at MasakoX with the hashtag WhatIfWeek with your scenario, and I will keep it in my archive for future what if months. Who knows, it might end up in Octobers, Novembers, Decembers, whenever. Before we begin, make sure just to hit the like and subscribe button, as well as just clicking the bell icon, because I've noticed a lot of people have been not getting updates and people have been tweeting me about it, so just make sure that bell icon is actually pressed as well as the subscribe button, and we should all be pretty good here. You don't want to miss a future What If month now, do you? Now let's begin investigating what could possibly happen in Dragon Ball Z should Goku here never learnt to put two fingers on his forehead in such an iconic pose that many of you, myself included, have tried to mimic at least once in their lifetime. It starts off pretty easy, with everything pretty much up until the end of the Frieza saga happening as it does in the anime. This includes Goku arriving on planet Yardrat, barely escaping planet Namek's destruction after Frieza's bungled attack. In the original story, Goku was healed by the Yardratians, given some really neat threads, and taught one of the most important techniques that Goku has in his arsenal, the instant transmission technique. Or the instant translocation, or whatever kind of localization you grew up with as a kid. So let's say that in this story, Goku still went to planet Yardrat. That still happened because that was the location that all that button mashing took him, but the actual choice that made sure that Goku learned the instant transmission never took place. Perhaps the guy who knew it best and was the one to actually teach Goku the move was away on vacation or something, or off planet, or maybe not feeling very well. Something that would actually divert Goku from actually discovering the move and technique and actually just spamming the heck out of it. Either way, Goku never got to learn it and left the planet before he could do so. After that, and for a pretty sizable amount of time, the same events in the anime happen here. You know, Trunks exposes the idea of the cyborgs coming in 3 years' time, at 10 AM, 9 miles off of South City on May 12th, yada yada yada. Goku and the others prepare for the cyborgs. Shiro and 19 then show up instead of 17 and 18. Goku contracts the heart virus like we all know and love. Goku has to be taken home to recover, as well as 17 and 18 being reactivated. Now things begin to deviate once Goku is actually recovered. In the original story, once Goku had actually gotten back to full health, he then used instant transmission to jump to the ship where everyone was kind of gathering trying to figure out what to do. Without that luxury, Goku would actually have to catch up to them the old-fashioned way by flying very, very fast, and I mean really, really fast. But since Goku has to use a lot of energy to fly really quickly, who's to say that Imperfect Cell might not try to interfere on the way? I mean, he could do that, but I think in this case he wouldn't. Imperfect Cell is a very desperate creature. His eyes are on the cyborg prize, so for now, he'll let Goku do whatever he wants. So yeah, the first deviation from the story isn't that bad. It just means that Goku takes a little longer to do what he was already going to do. But once he's actually gotten to the ship and grabbed Gohan, they then have to also fly very far and very fast to where Vegeta and Trunks are, deep in the mountains, where Vegeta's having a little huff. In the original story, all of this would have probably taken a couple of minutes at the most. Here, at best, it would take about an hour to fly to the ship, grab Gohan, fly to the mountains, and then talk to Vegeta and Trunks, then fly to the lookout. An hour. Or maybe several. A lot of things can happen in that time. For example, Goku and Gohan, by the time they actually arrive to Vegeta and Trunks' location, tell them what they need to tell them, then actually make their way to the lookout. The fight between Tenshinhan and Semi-Perfect Cell could be well underway. Piccolo will be left drowning in the sea, whilst our favourite Triclops is trying to distract Semi-Perfect Cell so 16 and 18 can escape. Piccolo and Tenshinhan would have died long before he would have gotten there. Tenshinhan would have just drained all of his life energy doing Shinki Koho's day and night, and then being blasted by Cell in a cathartic manner, and Piccolo again would have drowned in the sea. How ironic. Water gives him complete life, but will actually take it from him. But in a fit of rage, Goku doesn't stop. He continues to where he can sense Cell's location, just to try and get his own back or try and do something. Meanwhile, Semi-Perfect Cell is busy trying to look for 16 and 18 in all of those little islands. But then Goku arrives and actually tries to interrupt his proceedings. In typical fashion, Goku says that he won't forgive him for what he did to his friends. Cell, who contains a lot of Goku's DNA, can actually read Goku like a book and decides to play him tremendously. He decides to actually say, "Why yes, I did kill your friends, Goku, and I enjoyed killing them too. Oh boy, did they scream as I took their lives away from them," reveling in all the gory details, which just makes Goku even more angry. But before he can be distracted even further by Cell, he then remembers what he came here for. He tells Cell that he will return, and he will be even stronger than he is now. Cell contains a lot of Saiyan DNA, so the prospect of a really compelling challenge appeals to him greatly. He allows Goku his little exercise in futility. You know, it's a fight, let him do it. Doesn't hurt him, as long as he can concentrate on looking for 18 and 16 without distraction, then yeah, all's good. Goku, Gohan, Vegeta and Trunks all do their stints in the time chamber quite successfully, and everything is set for the Cell games in roughly 10 days time. Everything pretty much up until that point happens as it does in the original anime. However, there is one important thing to take note of. Since Goku doesn't have instant transmission, he can't just suddenly pop off to New Namek and then bring Dende back so he can become the new Guardian of Earth. If they are going to still try and do that plan, then communications between the two worlds will be a lot slower, and they would have had to go through King Kai, who can do telepathy. All of this would have to carry the idea of the proposal to Dende to become the new Guardian of Earth. Then they would have to tell the Namekians to gather the Dragon Balls, what they would need to wish for, them actually having to summon Porunga and actually doing the wishes, and then actually doing the deed and summoning Dende to come to Earth. This wouldn't have been an instant fix like in the anime. This would have probably taken a couple of hours or maybe a couple of days to act out depending on where the Dragon Balls are. Needless to say, it takes a sizable amount of time. Time that the gang don't really have much of in this present situation. But as the Cell games are gearing up, things do realign themselves again, and things continue to be normal as the beginnings of the Cell games start. Goku and Cell duke it out as they do. However, a similar scenario crops up, the same one that I talked about in the third part of the What If Vegeta Was the First Super Saiyan video that you can check a link to in the description and up top. Goku could possibly be offed when Cell's Kamehameha actually tracks Goku's moves as he tries to fly up into space. In the original story, Goku was lucky to escape that blast by using, you know what. Since things are a little bit too early right now, I'm gonna throw Goku a bone here. I've always had the issue in Dragon Ball Z as well as many other movies and TV shows that if you're running away from something, I'm looking at you Prometheus, you could just run to the side, or in this case, fly to the side. So if Goku did just a couple of sharp turns, he might have been able to deviate from the blast and escape. But even if Goku were able to actually escape that blast, another important event in Goku's favour would have never happened. And I think you know what I'm talking about here. The instant Kamehameha. Despite this being one of the most iconic maneuvers and moments in the entire Cell saga, without instant transmission it would not have been possible, not even as a bluff. Goku had the luxury of instant transmission to help him, but here he doesn't have said luxury. So yeah, that entire bit is completely removed. So Goku would actually throw the Cell match a little earlier than usual, and then carry out his grand master plan in actually showing that Gohan would be the hero of the day. As you might expect, the story begins to realign itself again as Gohan takes on Cell, 16 is crushed under Cell's foot, and Gohan goes Super Saiyan 2. Goku's plan begins to fall apart because he didn't take two things into account. One, Gohan didn't actually want to fight in the first place, and he is actually really terrified inside despite being really powerful, and B, Super Saiyan 2 is very hard to control emotionally, especially for a kid. After Cell voms up number 18, he then has to do a desperation tactic by expanding his body, exploding the bomb inside of him, and blowing up the planet, just to kind of say, if I can't win, then nobody wins! Since Goku cannot get rid of Cell using instant transmission, the only way they can actually save the planet Earth is to actually physically carry Cell off the planet and chuck him off into space. And that is a lot harder than you might think. There are a lot of things that we don't know. How heavy is Cell right now? Could he be impossible to lift? Might he be as heavy as a mountain or something, or maybe an entire continent? These are all questions that the gang don't have time to answer. Goku has to at least try. And remember, Cell still has his ears. He's gonna do his best to actually dig himself into the earth, so that means they can't lift him that easily. This just makes the task even harder, and yeah, I think you can imagine Goku's plan doesn't work. They're able to get him off the ground and some way into the air, but it's not enough. Cell detonates with the power of many bombs, and yeah, needless to say, everyone's wiped out. Like in the anime, one of Cell's cells lives on, and from there, he begins to sprout new limbs and then come back through regeneration. Thanks, Piccolo. But hey, wait, Masako. How can Cell breathe in space? Well, that's easy. One of the actual traits of Cell is that he has some of Frieza's DNA, and do you remember? Frieza can breathe in space. He can actually breathe in a vacuum, so it stands to reason, and I think it's a reasonable assumption, that Cell could do the same. So now what does he do? Conquer the galaxy, perhaps? I mean, it's something. And remember, he has Frieza DNA. The idea of conquering the galaxy and actually ruling over lesser mortals actually would appeal to him. I guess he could start off by icing a couple of new Namekians, perhaps. It is now time for Cell in space! Is that it? Well, for the time being, yeah. If the Dragon Balls were used to summon Dende to Earth as well as other things, it would take an entire year for the Dragon Balls to be usable again. A lot of things can happen in a year. Cell could do other things, a lot of other races could be wiped out or subjugated. Cell would technically be the strongest mortal in Universe 7. The only beings that could possibly stop Cell right now would be Beerus and Whis, and remember, Beerus is not exactly the most attentive of gods of destruction. So could Whis do anything? But it's not his business to interfere. Well, I mean, at least not at the time. If Beerus woke up and nobody was around to entertain him or even at least feed him, then who knows what could happen. Sadly, Whis is bound by this obligation, and that means Cell is allowed to run riot around Universe 7 until Beerus wakes up. Well, that was a happy ending, wasn't it? It goes to show that despite the instant transmission move looking relatively simple, it's still an important move. Okay, even if somehow the gang were able to actually thwart Cell's attempt to blow up planet Earth, who's to say the same thing, or at least not a similar thing, would have happened during the Buu saga? Remember, when Kid Buu destroyed planet Earth, Goku used instant transmission to rescue a couple of people, including Mr. Satan, our Lord and Savior? That wouldn't have happened. You still had the same deal of Earth being blown up just a few years later. Having said that though, it would be a curious prospect to see what Cell would actually do now he's free to do whatever he wants. I would love to see what you guys come up with in the comments. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this little supposition, and remember, if you have your own What If Week idea, just tweet me at MasakoX with the hashtag WhatIfWeek, and I will keep it in reserve, perhaps. Anyway, so what do you guys think? Do you think things lined up correctly? What do you think Cell would actually get up to? Leave a comment below, and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later!